I don't need that. I'm not going to gavel it right now. Huh?
When are we doing it? Before or after?
It's okay. It confused me too. All right, well, it's 6:30. I was expecting a crowd, but we can go ahead and get this budget work session started. It's Monday, July 25th. It is now 6:30. And roll call, please.
Trustee Awe.
Here.
Trustee Dallison. Here. Trustee Harts.
Here.
Trustee Luke.
Here.
Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
All present.
All right, everybody please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the Visioning 2023 budget work session from the Board of Trustees. Oh.
So everybody has a copy of the budget, and I just gave everybody a packet, including the public, when they're here. So this is the 2022 budget message, and then the state statute regarding the Bayfield budget that were complied. And then the next page, basically, we're going to talk about nonprofits and partnerships. I think that it's been kind of one of those things where you're gonna have to have some direction on how you want nonprofits to request money. We have some partnerships that we assume, basically, we have a shared vision, and there's shared and cooperative things that we work on together. But when the nonprofits come, I think it's important that we kind of have a process. So on August 2nd, we'll work on basically identifying exactly what the Board of Trustees would like to see for that. And then if you go to the page, it's got basically the kind of the canary colors, the spreadsheet. I also put that up here as well. The 2022 goals, the four top ones were housing and broadband, 24/7. Marshall coverage, Dove Ranch stormwater, and stormwater management. And when I look at the flight analogy, we're right here in this blue box right now. So we really are looking for direction from the Board of Trustees regarding their goals. And you have a whole list of capital improvements and staff that has come to you. This is kind of preliminary at this point, but I think I'm going to kind of give you an update on where we are with the four top goals. The housing and broadband, we are very well aware that a lot of those grants, working with the RHA, either regionally or county-wide, could be available, or we will be applying for our own housing grant for Cinnamon Heights infrastructure. Broadband has become more of a regional direction, so there's a more stronger group that's now meeting. Shaq Powers, who was the Montezuma County manager, is now working with broadband throughout Region 9. And it looks like we have a lot of strength behind that, actually applying for a grant for this whole region. And in some of the other regions I worked in, this makes sense because all of us need to be connected. And even though Bayfield is working on our $400,000 grant, we do have a grant from DOLA to do 50% of CNLs and fiber, aerial fiber. And we're hoping to get that done this year. I know that Deeply Digital was looking for some parts that have just recently come in, so hopefully we get an update that we get that done before the snow flies this year. So that's certainly our goal. And then the Dove Ranch stormwater, we now have good information, or we have the owner is now coordinating and cooperating with me regarding the detention area, which would be west of 501. And so there's some water rights and some other things that we're working on. So right now, we're working on basically looking for an agreement for the purposes of providing a guarantee that if we go this direction and start working on the stormwater area, that he doesn't go out and sell it out from underneath us, or do something else with his property, or back out. So it's kind of a real estate agreement that will be coming before the Board of Trustees at some point, when we kind of have that all reviewed, hopefully before the end of October is kind of our goal. Stormwater management, well, it takes a big rain event June 26th to realize how important that was. I am collecting information from some of my colleagues, and also working with some legal advice regarding Tabor and how that can be funded. So that again will be coming to you on the 2nd of August for more discussion. The last items, SRO, we actually have a signed agreement. The Board of Trustees has executed that. I have not heard back from the school district. We're paving streets would be great. However, we want to make sure that some of the CNL, some of the broadband is determined first before we pave a street and then cut it up to put basically fiber in the street. Senior Center Kitchen, we got the Ansel system figured out, but we got a couple other steps to make sure that we can remove the red tag. Mill Street revitalization, we actually have the west gateway done, and now we're working on a grant for the east gateway. And by the way, it looks like the same money that we budgeted for the west side, most of that we'll still have some left over. We can use that on the east side gateway. So we kind of resolved that. The roadside restrooms, we have the porta potty people continue to have issues there. The last Big John's finally pulled out and said they've had enough. We have a new vendor that may not last very long because it tipped over the porta potty. The city of Ouray just put in a kind of self-contained restroom. It's got a woman's and a men's restroom, fully insulated and heated. It was plus electricity was just a little less than $120,000. So we've got to do something as far as having restrooms there. Access to the river, there has been no progress, and Pine River Sheriff's Farm, we have not received any information from Pine River Sheriff's since really last year. So that's where we're at. Our goal is to kind of take these markers and really start with 2023. Somebody gets me first.
Well, I think stormwater needs to be a little bit higher up on the table than it is right now.
So I agree with the stormwater and the broadband. So with the housing development, can you just one more time say where we're at with RHA and the funding to move forward? You were talking about moving forward with the housing development. What was coming next?
So the RHA is looking for an executive director.
Mm-hmm.
So that executive director will probably help us kind of in county-wide looking for resources for housing. However, we're right now in Cinnamon Heights, our progress is we're basically still working on the site plan, and ADA, there's two words, ADA accessible and ADA, there's another term for that. And so we're looking at those two benefits. So in other words, one means that is accessible for handicapped The other one means that it could be converted, or there could be some things that were added to make it a handicap accessible. So they're looking at those options right now. SGM is our engineer that is in, they're out of Grand Junction. That's the office that's working on that. And you also wanted us to get an agreement with SEH, basically a third party to review their work. And we are still working on a couple agreements with SEH. We're trying to get completed done at this time. Find something that writes here.
And did you say something about infrastructure with that, starting?
I'm gonna let Nicole basically, you're talking about grants.
Mhm.
I'm gonna let Nicole kind of address that.
Yeah, so a couple of grants we're looking at right now are for affordable housing infrastructure. And so those come out hopefully this fall. The first, just so you know what this is, I'm trying to track the
Oh.
grants. And what would be something that could be beneficial for Bayfield, trying to track due dates. And really just, do we have the capacity to go after them and manage them? So having one place where we can track all that. But the first one is, it's HB 22-1304, and that's really affordable housing infrastructure. It's gonna be through DOLA and Division of Housing. We have a workshop next week to get more information. So the maximum amount and the due date and all that is to be determined. But what I'm hearing is this fall is when it's gonna open up. So we'll be following that one very closely, as well as the HB 21-1271, which is Affordable Housing Incentives Grant, and specifically the Incentives Grant Program is another one that we could possibly use for infrastructure for Cinnamon Heights. And so that'd be the next phase after we get the engineering done, is to go after grants.
Mhm.
And we'll be what we call shovel ready, because we'll have the plans, we go after the grants, and then we use that money to pay for the infrastructure. Then once the infrastructure is in place, then we can sell the lots to a builder or multiple builders at a reduced rate so that they can build them.
Cheaper.
And restrict them through homes fund. So the next phase for me after we get these grants and when we get the builders in place is to work with homes fund and work on those deed restrictions. But so there's a couple grants that we're gonna be looking at to get that infrastructure.
Okay, but we're in the site plan process.
Yeah, engineering.
Okay.
So I still think, I mean, it's still, in my opinion, pretty high on the priority list. I know that we're making a bunch of steps to move forward with broadband and housing, but does that mean we bump it, or because we have progress?
Well, I feel
Or do
like-
we keep it up there as our,
The housing
and broadband?
and broadband?
I mean, we kind of had them tied
Right.
for 1 and 2, or, you know.
Broadband. We've had this on the list for 2 years. So,
We've had Dove Ranch on there longer.
yeah, so I'm just thinking if that's what we're focusing on, is there anything that we could go after this year for broadband? I've just been seeing a whole lot of press releases from the tribe on where they're digging to do stuff. And I don't know whatever became of those conversations where we were able to maybe partner with what the county was doing or maybe with what the tribe was doing. So I'm just kind of curious if we can't do anything with broadband again this year, then should it be in the top 3? I mean, we all know we need broadband, but are we gonna be able to do anything with it? Should we be focusing on that this year?
So there's a really strong contingent in southwest Colorado that includes Archuleta County, Montezuma County, La Plata County, Dolores, San Juan County. So there's a really strong project that's going on basically for this project.
Okay.
So, and I think that if we concentrated on the town doing something, they're far more powerful to do this. In the areas where I work, Northwest Colorado and Region 10, that regional ability to get those grants is far stronger than us trying to do something and very honestly, there wasn't all that much money even in DOLA.
Okay.
There was very little money to grant here this last year,
Okay.
so.
So we all want broadband, but if the region and the county is already working on this, this is most likely something that, hey, Bayfield, are you in? We could be like, hey, yeah, count us in. But-
So,
Right?
Region 9 just voted the executive committee to move forward as a region to
Okay.
pool resources to go after money.
Okay, okay.
Which, it makes a lot of sense if you look at the
Yeah.
map, because there's connectivity that has to happen with each of these communities. So, but that's my question. It's still a very high priority,
Yeah.
but is it something that we keep high, but asterisk,
Yeah.
that there's research, we are going after, or do we bump it to a lower priority, knowing that it's being addressed? That's,
Okay, so this is the way I look at it. This is gonna take a lot less money and a lot more resources. So a lot more staff, basically, to make sure we're paying attention to what, the region is doing. These meetings can be two or 3 hours long. And the thing is that, but we kind of have to hang in there with the meetings and basically get through, it's not red tape, but the bureaucratic, organization to make sure it works. So I think basically making sure that staff that can pay attention to this, which would be myself, probably Nicole, probably Jeremy, to pay attention to these things is really important.
Okay.
And DataSafe, our IT, Christine Fraley, who owns DataSafe, is also very involved in this. So I think it's really important to spend, it's more time versus dollars.
Okay, so in order for us to prioritize staff time to continue to be following broadband, it still needs to be in the
Yeah.
top. Okay, thank you
It's
for
not
explaining that.
necessarily in the budget top
Yeah, okay.
line item. So can I put staff under here?
Yeah.
No, I think that helps explain it, because I know that we are not going to solve the broadband issue for the entire region. Like, there's nothing we can do that's gonna make it better. We need to be a part of the larger group.
And I do know that there's some meetings starting with Arcadia as well that are coming up. And that is the broadband project that's coming over Wolf Creek Pass through 160, so.
Well, there's also going to be Starlink next year as well, which I'm not sure how that's going to compete with broadband. We definitely need broadband for sure,
and
but
it's-
Starlink is supposedly going to be available in 2023. I already put a deposit down for it, and that's going to be way faster than even broadband.
That's satellite.
Yeah, it's Elon Musk. It's his thing, but it's $99 a month, and it's expensive up front, but once it's available in Bayfield, Durango, Pagosa, it's definitely going to compete with broadband for sure. But we shouldn't stop trying to, get the infrastructure put in place to have broadband, because a lot of people won't be able to afford Starlink. So
And that's usually the goal. In fact, our project revolved around free and reduced lunch bandwidth. So.
Now, with the cost of housing, you gotta have something that's not super expensive, right?
I know.
well, yeah, I lived in Denver for 18 years, so when I came back here, it was kind of like, yeah, we need higher speed internet for sure.
Yes, it's very different than a city.
I want to see our parks master plan in general on there, because that would address both river access and Little Pine restrooms, because it seems like we need to go after a bigger portion of money to work on that in general.
So actually implement the plan.
Are we including Dove Ranch with the stormwater?
I know that was gonna be my next question.
No, I was thinking.
Do we
the
do
same
a
thing.
townwide
Just do it all
stormwater plan, or do
together.
we have to address
Well, I think-
Dove Ranch?
Yeah, I think
on its own?
Dove Ranch is pretty, I mean, and I'm not discounting anybody that flooded out, don't take this the wrong way, please, but, I mean, it seemed like a lot of the flooding issues that happened because of somebody put in the wrong infrastructure or non-maintenance of what we already had existing. Dove Ranch is something that just needs to get done, so we can't keep dumping water in that ditch.
They could sue us.
What's that?
They said they could probably sue us.
Yeah, and that could happen at any time. I kind of think Dove Ranch is the priority for me.
Yep.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
It's all.
I would still say
That's all, okay.
Marshall coverage is still needed as well. They're not any better off than they were last year.
I'm sorry, we're just gonna take that one off, it's maybe not as important.
No, I think.
No, no,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying it's.
I was saying that
Yeah,
it
it's
still
still-
is needed.
Done. I'm just gonna say done. Or we're close to done.
I think the roads,
SRO would be done too.
Well, the SRO is,
On our
I think
part.
is more done.
School district to-
So you really think that the Marshall coverage is done? Because when we
I don't know,
move to,
that's yours.
oh no, I'm not saying it's done. I'm saying I think it still needs
prioritize
to be
it.
done in the priority.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't understand what you're doing.
we got it done already.
That's why I was like, with that new hire, I was like wondering if that solved all that.
No.
I was
But
like,
see,
okay.
see, with the SRO, you
Okay.
take a person and you put them in the SRO, then you already have another one that's needed in the other spot. So
True.
it doesn't help us in that level, so.
Something that's not up there that I want to see this year is the land use code updates.
Is that us or the, what's that?
It's
One of
a
the-
combination between
Yeah.
planning commission and us, I guess. And more staff time to come up with those updates and.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with that, I see the access to the river, the park restrooms, and the revitalization kind of all as one big unit if we're gonna start talking about developments, tying in paths around town and having that recreational feature to our town.
Yeah,
And I would say it's still priority, but definitely down on the list.
Yes, but it also needs to be tied into the land use code so that we're thinking about it. I mean, it's down on the list, but it also needs to, with the land use code updated to include paths that tie into it, if we have like a master path plan or whatever, then we can start getting developers to literally buy into it.
So I
So-
want to make sure that I understand, because if we have developers developing these smaller parks within the land that they own,
Yes,
then that becomes, when we gotta send somebody out to mow or take care of a trail or whatever else, that becomes expensive to get all this equipment and people out remotely. We're hoping that developers take care of their own parks. And the one thing
Correct.
about, like Dove Ranch, I get, phone calls about take that, that tree's dead, or can I pull the weeds or whatever, and I'm like, hey, that's yours. Like, if you like to pull weeds, you're doing it for your own HOA that doesn't exist anymore.
I think I'm looking at, so Mustang Crossing. Okay, so they are putting their path around. If we have a path map of the city where we're gonna have access to the river and Mill Street revitalization and this, so that we can direct that path to attach maybe to another path that is gonna be city-owned. I'm not saying that we should be maintaining what the developers are doing, but instead of just saying a developer has to have so many acres of square feet per, I don't even know exactly the measurements for that, but if they need to have open space, that we can guide that open space to be part of the paths, or maybe attached to the paths.
Would that be part of the master plan, the park master plan?
So in another community that worked in, we had a overlay, green space, district, so wasn't zoning, but it was green space, trails, parks.
Mhm.
And what it did is basically it connected, it had all the trails where we wanted trails, and when those properties got developed, that's where you're gonna put a trail. You don't have an option to put it somewhere else, because when you developed, you knew you were in this overlay district.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's, we'll pass it on.
Right, so, yeah, so I think it should be down on, it's not a priority, but it is, the overlay maybe might be just the planning part of it might be the part now,
Yeah.
and not necessarily budgeted things, except for the bathroom. I think the bathroom is important.
Yeah, Trails plan would be in probably the Parks and Rec master plan as well as in the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
We'd have a reference.
Okay, but I do think that the roadside park restrooms are important.
We've got Michael Goldman in the waiting room. Sorry, I've just backed up.
I have a question about paving. Maybe you can clarify. I mean, have we identified any streets that need to be completely repaved, or is that the seal or the repair, crack seal?
Well, a portion of Cataract's been on the repaving list for a couple of years. We're a little bit leery to do any overlay or reconstruction because of the broadband initiative that's coming up. There'll be a lot of trenching and digging. But this fall, we're also slated an asphalt management program through SGM and GIS, and that'll give us a lot better idea of how to prioritize and move forward with some of these street reconstructions
Okay.
and some paving projects. So we hope to have that done by the end of 2022.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, because I understand the need to have, nice streets in our town, but I didn't know if that was just repairing some, or if there were some in dire need we had to
Yeah,
just
we don't want
completely.
another collapsing street.
Right, and we're not gonna have a street fall in right now, but there are some that are in really poor shape. So, we've had those identified, but we don't necessarily have an asphalt management program. And, we did fund that this year, and we put that together through SGM, the GIS mapping. And it'll really give us a good roadmap for a 10-year or longer program.
Oh, that's
as far
cool.
as for that maintenance and reconstruction.
So the streets that are pretty bad, I mean, like, how much life do you think they have left in them?
Well, Tamarack, I think you probably have maybe 3 to 5 years. There's portions of Los Pinos that are in really poor shape. We've been doing crack seal and surface treatments, so a lot of the roads aren't in horrible shape.
Right.
But those years, probably within 5 years, those roads will be disintegrated. So
Okay.
we're gonna need to start working
Planning
on some
on
of
it,
the
yeah.
overlay. And we had some real good luck with a full reconstruction. PAP did Westview Drive for us, and they did a full mill and overlay, and that actually came out really nice. So I think we're looking at addressing some of those really poor condition streets in that fashion. It's just a balancing act. If we can get going on the fiber, and we know that the below surface infrastructure is in, then we can really start fixing the surface. Is kind of where we're at right now.
But can those streets wait?
Yeah.
Because I know every time you plow Los Pinos, I get chunks of asphalt in my yard.
Well, you're supposed to be saving it up for us, Tom.
Yeah.
I know, the only good parts of Los Pinos are where we did the new service lines across it. So all
Yeah, right,
those are the best spots.
right, for a whole, like, 2 foot wide.
Yeah, so hopefully in 2023, we're looking at putting together some better projects for some of these older roads, and we'll have that program put together, which will actually be a good roadmap for us for the next 10 years. So,
That's
as
cool.
far as for funding and
So we still need to leave well, I guess you got paving management plan, so I guess that still covers it.
So I just put asphalt management plan, I don't know if you want it in this priority, because basically we're asking to implement the asphalt management plan.
Yeah.
I would still like to move forward with the senior center kitchen, and I just want to, for the record, I know there's a vicious rumor out there that my obsession with getting this kitchen up and running is so that I can use it for my own Bloody Mary company. But I have a company that bottles mine. I just think it's an underutilized resource in this community. I know of 2 caterers that are currently looking for a commissary commercial kitchen. I just think that could be a moneymaker for us. So That's just for the record, I'll put that out there, so.
And just like in general with us wanting to stay an ag community, I mean, that opens up a lot of doors for small businesses and things like that to have a commercial kitchen. I think it's important too.
So I thought I would let you know that I explained to you that Town Hall and the Senior Center had HVAC, heat, and air conditioning basically in these brand-new buildings in 2008. And they're failing. And so we're starting to do a lot of rigging. And half of that is basically, we don't have a facility maintenance person, you know, the town of Bayfield built these buildings and then just didn't understand that they had to maintain them. The computer system that managed this facility, at some point, previous management told them that they didn't need that anymore and it was thrown out. So there's no way to manage this facility. We've got buckets upstairs, buckets and tubs to catch the water. We have drywall that we're losing at the senior center because we have frozen pipes.
Oh,
And some
God.
other things that are not working. I know that they have solar panels on the roof, and I really don't even know if they even operate anymore. So what I really would like to do is make sure that we have an energy management contract with DOLA. That may be fully funded, so that at least we find out if there isn't solar, basically, way. GARS, who comes in and does maintenance every 6 months, and I'm not talking about, you need a facility manager to do something almost on a daily basis, especially the cotton that we had this year. But he's very serious about the fact that these systems are trash. So,
They should have lasted a lot longer than that,
They
too.
should last a lot longer than that, but
Yeah.
unfortunately,
There was no upkeep.
without a computer to manage this facility, and the way the senior center was built and not maintained, we're starting to run into some real issues of just deferred maintenance. And we're trying to get ahead of it, but we're not gonna get ahead of it, just calling guards every time we have to put a tub out to catch water.
That needs to be a priority.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm just gonna put that, I'll just put it up here. I asked GARS basically to give us a quote and just see if we can't do this in phases, because I know that we can't do this in 1 year. But I think it's not gonna hurt to have an energy performance contract in here first and just kind of find out where we're at. So, I mean, I do what I can. I was down there with the Ansel person and the GARS and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next. And I'm like, okay, well, I gotta get an electrician to do this, and I gotta find the fire panel, which nobody can find. And if we can't find the fire panel, Summit will do something different. So, anyway, there's some areas that we just have to pay attention to, so.
So is this, we also need like an office or a facilities manager
That's in your,
in addition to?
that's in the
Packet.
the request for staff.
Okay.
Parks and Rec wanted a half-time facility maintenance person, and Public Works wanted a full-time facility person, basically, facility and grounds, to deal with some of the issues that we can't, that we're just kind of poking around at because none of us have the time. When the cotton got all in the air coolers at the senior center, you know, we have to pay somebody to come out there and basically hose off the cotton, and we still can't get it out there because it takes 2 or 3 people to do that at the same time. So.
to me, that's just a basic thing to have somebody on payroll, regular service, that comes out, takes care of your HVAC. And I just can't believe we don't have that.
A lot of the problems that have been coming up have just been purely reactive. So we're waiting until we're seeing a problem and we're trying to address that issue.
Right.
And there hasn't been a lot of proactive approach to a lot of these facilities. And some of just the general maintenance as far as for scheduling.
Right.
You know, and like I said, a lot of that comes down to time and staffing that we're talking about before. And so there is a request in here for some facility management.
And do we have an elevator in here too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have an elevator.
And are we on a contract on that?
We
for
have,
somebody to maintenance it?
Thiessen,
Yeah, I know who it is.
that we
Knowles,
have,
yeah.
Decent
yeah.
crook.
We
Yep,
have an
them.
inspector, and then we have a fixer, and then we
Oh.
have a
Would-
state certificate.
That makes sense. Okay, that's perfect. That works.
I know this is a little bit of a sidestep, but the stormwater feasibility is under streets. Is it exclusively under streets, or should it be kind of a blend of streets, sewer, and water? I know we have a stormwater management program in Durango at the wastewater plant, and where we check storm drains and do inspections quarterly and stuff like that. So to lessen the cost being under one category, I mean, can it be streets, sewer, and water? I'm not sure exactly how to fund that, but it seems like there's definitely a lot of money in sewer, and there's a decent amount in water, but, and there's a lot in streets as well, but I was just saying if it was like a blend of the three categories, then would it be easier to fund? Or does it even matter?
Okay, so this is just a little bit of research that I've done. So the Grand Valley Drainage District basically did a fee, and they were charging basically all the residents and businesses in that area. The county commissioners and the chamber took them to court. They lost. They're a statutory number 37 in the state statutes, and we are a municipality in the state statutes. And I'm trying to get the judge order because the manager of the Grand Valley District basically stated that the fee was for 37 statutory organizations and not municipalities. And so municipalities have that power. So you could be charging a stormwater fee, but I think that it's not smart to really just start charging it. Let's just say we just throw in $25 to start out with. I think you gotta figure out what it's gonna cost you and how do you get this up to where we're actually managing it. And Public Works has another staff person that they would like to hire. That's just to do what they're doing now. If you add stormwater, you're looking for somebody else, basically, to do stormwater throughout town. And, you know, does that include HOAs? Do HOAs still have to manage their stormwater? I mean, I think we've got to, those are a lot of things that we have to figure out. I want to step lightly on the fee portion of it because I want to make sure that we have the legal basis to do that. And because there's such a recent case, I don't want to step out of line. So.
But you could, so on the utility bill, you could put it under like street fund, stormwater.
It'd be under stormwater utility.
So its own, we would create its own utility.
Yes, it would be its own enterprise. You would create an ordinance based, that you have a stormwater utility. You have to manage like that.
Katie, how would you manage, I mean, when people have infrastructure on their private property? Because I think that's part of what we were discussing with the recent flooding. How would that, like, maintenance or review of that be included if there was a fee in someone who was doing those inspections? Since it's not, that infrastructure with those small pipes was on, it was from a developer putting in the wrong size pipes on a property, and that could be anywhere else in town. It just happened to be there this one time.
So you would have to figure out as a board, and as we get into this, and keep in mind that I think we're gonna need some time to do this, is to figure out, are you going to manage stormwater that is not within another managed organization like an HOA? Is Dove Ranch not in an HOA? Do we pay for this detention pond and then manage that stormwater? Versus Clover 7, they have a brand new, nice area of a stormwater detention pond. Do we decide that they get to pay for their own and yet they're still being charged? I think we've got to figure that out, because Clover, is it Clover 2 or Clover 3? That's where that flooded. They should be managing it themselves. And so we've got to figure out what you're going to do, and it could get dicey, so we're not going to go into this lightly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in a situation like you're talking about right now, it's civil. If one property impacts another property's drainage by something they did, that's a civil matter. But what we're finding is there's some old storm facilities out there that were actually given over to the town at one point through historical documents that we didn't know, and therefore have deferred maintenance too, so that's a different animal there. But I think the plan is gonna look at all of that and then just kind of say, okay, this is what it's gonna cost to manage these facilities, this is gonna cost to take on additional facilities, and then the board's gonna have to make some decisions on how to proceed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if anyone's house is flooded as a result of like Bayfield infrastructure, detention ponds that are from Bayfield, and their house is flooded, even if they have an HOA or whatever and they have proper drainage, if we have detention ponds that are overflowing and it's causing flooding in people's houses, then I guess that's on us. It is going to be tricky to kind of pick out which things we can change and improve, and then what we should just stay away from. It's going to take a feasibility, obviously, to point out those problem spots and go from there. So.
Yeah, and
Our engineer is suggesting that we update the current one that was, or not the current one, the one in 2014. It's older, but it may be something you just update for our purposes. But I think we've got to but as a board, you've got to figure out, do we take over all these HOA detention ponds? Start treating stormwater at some point? You know, if we get to a population size, we may have to do it anyway.
So I think I know that in our last meeting, Nicole had talked about, we all talked about like the strategy of trying to figure that out so we can make that educated decision based on evidence, because I don't want to say the town is responsible for any flooding right now until I have a good understanding of what's out there, what hasn't been maintained, what has been, who's responsible for what, and then we determine from there the path we want to move forward. Because again, I don't know what caused the floods that just happened, other than there was a lot of rain really fast. And that could that happen somewhere else? I don't know, but that's what we're gonna try to find out based on a 2014 study and more recent studies, hopefully.
So I think that there's some reason that they did that in 2014.
Probably.
Because I'm sure this people have lived here long enough, probably knew that there was a pretty extreme rain event at some point. So it will happen again. Maybe not in 500 years, but but we don't know. But the thing is, there was an issue. As far as our responsibility, it's still a flood insurance issue, that people should have flood insurance. And you have an ordinance that allows people to get flood insurance here in Bayfield. And I understand it costs money, but that's how you protect your. And of course, our insurance, the town's insurance company, will not provide it because they didn't have flood insurance.
Is there going to be some way that we manage those property owners that adjust easements that they shouldn't have? Things like that? Is that a civil?
We have the right to do that now.
Okay.
Basically to have them, basically manage it better and ask them nicely. But the thing is that it'd probably be better if you had an ordinance that had a little more teeth in it, that there was a fine, just like if you hooked into sewer or you dump sewer on the ground, there's a fine here. So I think that may be another municipal code under stormwater management.
No, I think so. And then, I mean, when we're talking about, like, I'm just thinking of that east, what was it called? Bayfield East, the 160, 70 home build that we were looking at that one time, long time ago. I mean, I think about you build that and then where's more like every time there's a development being built, there's a pond put in or a storm drain. Something's put in because someone thought that was going to be correct. And perhaps it's not. And so how do we adjudicate, like when we're looking at these plans, that the drainage is going to be adequate for what's going on? I mean, what the one gentleman, he was just saying that the county in the bus depot was why their property flooded and it was the county and town's fault. And I was like, well, wait a second. I'm sure when that was put into place, someone did some sort of research on, will that flood out Clover Meadows? So I don't know. I just think we need a lot more information on what this looks like, but I definitely think it should be a priority because we can't have neighborhoods popping up all over the place with, you know, being flooded out. I mean, it's education so they have flood insurance, but it's also, what are we doing to help? I mean, I'd really love some broadband, but I'd really love for people not to get flooded because they don't know they have an 8-inch drainage pipe. I mean, I have no idea what's under my house. If mine flooded, what was my due diligence that I messed up on?
So am I hearing that this is number one?
Yeah, the stormwater.
Apparently.
I thought that was
Yeah.
already clear.
Yeah. That's right. And then I guess we figure out how we approach it, whether we do Dove Ranch on its own or,
I think
I feel like
Part
we,
of
I
it,
think there's
yeah.
gonna be a lot put into this, a lot
Staff
of
time too.
engineering thought. How do you find them? Grand Valley Drainage District charged $36 per household per month for that. Of course, they have to return all the money after 5 years. You know, when you're building parks, you know, is it our responsibility to also make sure that we're managing our parks? Not only do they get water, but they're also, you know, how do we detain water? The primary school, you may not notice it, but there's a nice detention pond area there that's nicely mowed and beautiful, but it's on that east side that basically captures that water. So, you know, does the school district, should we be managing their stormwater? I mean, that's another government entity that we have to figure out. So it's not an easy solution, but if it's number one, you know, we can spend some time. And how we're gonna fund it. You know, if we spend a lot of money here, we can't spend a lot of money here, and we can't spend a lot of money here. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Or we can't spend money at the senior center. So we have to figure out, and we're looking at 2023 water and sewer rates at some point later on in this budget season. So, you know, when people get their new bill, they're gonna say,
Lose their minds.
what went into this? How did you figure this out?
Well, I know, like, in general, you know, we don't want to take on too much as a town, especially for, you know, if it's a private home or things like that. I mean, I have my own experience with this whole flood going on. If my house flooded and I didn't have flood insurance, I wouldn't expect the town to pay for it. I might expect my neighbor to pay for it who readjusted how the flow of water went, but I wouldn't expect the town to pay for something like that. Places that have homeowners associations, they should, you know, maybe revisit how they do their homeowners association, make sure that they have a plan, make sure they're, you know, doing what they need to. Do we hold them accountable for that? I mean, you know, is there a way to hold them accountable for it? At least to, you know, visit the homeowners associations and ask them what their plan is to make sure it's draining properly and it's being well kept. And like you said, the one place has nicely mowed lawn in it. You know, but I don't want us as a town, we can't take it all on.
but if you're talking about having
Not unless
to,
we totally redo the entire drainage and have a plant that, you know.
Can treat
can
stormwater.
treat stormwater.
Then
and
you
that
want it
sort of
all,
thing.
right?
Then we want it all, yeah. But
We don't want it all.
Okay.
I don't think Jeremy's willing to take
Some,
that
not
one
all.
on.
I just think we need a grasp of what it is. And
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah,
Right.
we
I
don't
think
know
so,
because
too.
you guys are finding out that there's stuff that was given to the town and there's there's,
Well, there's all kinds of
record or-
things like easements and this, that, and the other thing that we need to know. We need to, just like they have you talk about the green space overlay, we need a stormwater overlay where we know where all the stormwater is going and who's responsible for what. So I think that's our
How
first.
can we make good
first step.
decisions on new developments if you do this exercise of looking into it and then we're like, oh my God, all that stormwater is gonna go right to where, but how do they know? Because they haven't had a 200-year flood
Incident.
event. But if we have an idea of this isn't being maintained or what this is happening. Anyway, I think
now
we're
we have a
beating a
better
dead
idea
horse
with
here. I
that.
think we definitely would like to do some work on stormwater.
Yeah,
An overview for sure, and then maybe after the overview, the priority might change, because how interesting that we're making it number one when all we've heard about is we don't have any water for months.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think that's coming from, I think we have staff that says we do have water.
right. But
So-
the drought and, all those issues have been
well, I think there's a
Common.
misconception. It's not like we have a bunch of storage for
Right.
water. What we have is running water through.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to, like, be on that alternate schedule.
right.
Because otherwise we would
Yeah,
mess
but
up
if,
the
if
flow.
Viceda runs out of, if our water source runs out, yes, we can pay more because we have priority in shares, but if there's no water available from that, it doesn't matter what we pay. There's no water, so I think that's part of the issue as well. We can treat it and we can manage it and we can store it very well, but if the source dries up, where does the water come from? I think that's what the concern I'm hearing is, and I'm actually concerned about that myself.
Right, and I'm saying more like, we just had this event which brought it to the forefront of everybody's mind, and we might not have a major event like that for another 20 years, who knows, but having an overview and a place to start is,
Wouldn't it have been nice if the 2014 study would have fixed the problems, though?
Yeah.
They probably said the same thing, oh, this is a
Yes.
one-time event.
So I think what, when Mountain View fell in, and, and I understood that at the time that they went and decided they needed to replace the culverts, but they couldn't afford them. And so, the thing is that, yes, they're not, it's not fancy to put a new culvert in, but the thing is, when you lose the road, all of a sudden you realize that you do have to spend money. Typically, you should just spend money so people don't notice. They shouldn't notice that there's a flood or a caved-in road, or, or the heat doesn't work in a building. I mean, those are things that they just shouldn't notice, and unfortunately, looking for a new restroom at the roadside park would be great. And I think that should be one of your priorities, because if not, we're probably using that river there as a toilet.
Yep.
I mean, let's be pretty honest.
Mhm.
So I'm good with stormwater, broadband housing. I would move Marshall coverage up before park master plan.
Me too.
And then I think we need to seriously consider the HVAC somewhere up on the list.
I think HVAC should be number 2.
I would agree with that.
And move broadband and housing down? I mean, yeah, because if we keep
Well,
got
ban-
expensive
if you
buildings
can't
here,
have
we
the
gotta
employees
preserve
that are
them.
working here be in a
Band-aiding them
comfortable
and spending
area.
money to
Yeah,
keep
no,
band-aiding.
we need to take care of the buildings we got, and that's
Yeah.
gotta be a priority.
And if you don't, it'll deteriorate the building faster, so. Plus, you have the employees that work here that you can't have them be in,
Well, I think the facility maintenance position that you requested, I think that's a great idea, and we should just get, that person as soon as possible. At the wastewater plant Durango, we all just do the maintenance ourselves, but, we have 3 or 4 operators, and we routinely do HVAC maintenance once a month. Replace filters, grease the bearings on the fans, stuff like that, check the belts. all that. So that's, like, we definitely need at least one person managing all that in Bayfield. I mean, it's, and that's just for the wastewater plant, so, in Durango. I'm sure all the other departments have their own maintenance people as well. So no, I think that's a pretty big priority as well. That can just go right with HVAC.
I mean, is this Parkside restroom, I mean, is this low-hanging fruit? Is this the matter of installing something like you find in a national park?
Yes.
Yeah, but, yeah,
That would then
so
be
it's a little, it's
maintained?
a little spendy, but it would be,
Yeah, she said, what, 120,000?
yeah. I mean, I definitely, I see the need for it, but I feel like we gotta get this.
There's some
Oh,
other.
no,
To
I
me,
agree.
yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out, is it, like, I don't think that
And
that is
Katie,
equal
are you
to
asking us to
stormwater.
prioritize these now, or are you gonna send these out to us and we? 'Cause, I mean, that's what I'm doing.
It to later, or?
That's what I'm doing, but in the past, you've sent it to us and then we've sent it back to you. But I kinda like just
Yeah, just do
getting it done today.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason we prioritize later is because some trustee said, well, why don't we prioritize things after you did this? So let's not go back to, let's back up. Sorry I didn't take pictures of this. This is the one in your Ray. So that's the women's restroom, that's the back.
Just a
of
nice
the
little
house.
restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
Oh, yeah.
back. It's a women's restroom. That's
Yeah,
the
it's gotta be bomb-proof, whatever it is. 'Cause-
Is
Literally.
would it be closed certain hours of the
I
day?
was just gonna ask
Like,
that.
this is not
Yeah,
open.
automatic locks,
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
yeah,
I was like, there might be
That's the
people
back.
sleeping in there.
yeah.
Not just sleeping in there, but graffiti.
And Katie, do you
all
think that
kinds
we
of
can get some kind
disgusting,
of
yucky
grant
things, yeah.
funding for something like that, or no?
So GoGo will not fund the restroom, but, maybe that's something we look into.
Isn't there a sewer line already ran up there?
I'll point to my public works.
It's close, right? But it's not all the way.
Depends on which portion of that. There is sewer and there was a water line that may have to be replaced if you want water up there. There were restrooms there,
I wrote the
A few
easement
years
for all
back,
that,
yeah.
back in the day
but
when,
there's a sewer line that runs through there that we can connect to. And I couldn't tell you what condition any of those facilities are in right now, as far as for the sewer service line.
I'm pretty
water
sure that
service
sewer line was already ran and water line ran up there through Joe Brown's.
Yeah, it comes all the way back through from North Street.
Uh-huh.
But there is potential to tap into those, we just have to see what the condition is. I mean, if they're still not serviceable, you might just end up putting in a new
Brand
service
new.
and to run that, depending on what condition.
'Cause I know you have an easement for it.
Yeah, they're all from North Street. So we just have to look into the sewer service and the water service, confirm the condition, and if they're good, we'll use them, if they're not, then
Replace it.
Make it a public art piece and
There you go.
Okay.
Put a sculpture.
We have air-proof recycling and trash can right there, so. Okay, so I kind of have this one, maybe this two. This is, I still think this should be kind of a regional, so it's basically staff heavy, not dollar heavy, I want to say.
Salaries can be
Housing,
heavy.
The Cinnamon Heights, we're kind of moving forward, and we have
Yep.
money that's coming, we know that it's coming. It's taken a long time to figure it out, but it is coming, so.
Definitely still
Let's
high.
make it number 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, I have this as number 4.
yeah.
Broadband number 5?
This is basically just a regional.
Oh, it's
staff.
not, doesn't need to be numbered, okay.
We'll-
Thank you.
We'll look at it kind of differently.
Asterisk by it.
Do you have the
And then
restrooms
the
on
rest
the
of
5?
these, I have land use code update, I have the park master plan, which we're gonna talk about here in just a little bit. Land use code updates, parks and open space connections, so we're basically going into Nicole's realm in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's more staff.
So, and I know Nicole's got a lot on her plate, but she's getting through things, so.
And I feel like
We don't want to
the
give her any downtime.
Right.
asphalt management plan is like
And these things-
Jeremy's thing.
These things we have to wait till we actually have the plan, and this one, I think that we're gonna start I can start nitpicking away at it, you know, the
Yeah.
door, the sliding door. And I did hear from the county that their attorney is working on the IGA with the town regarding
Good.
the senior center, the Pine River Senior Center, so I still don't know, I mean, I gave it to him at the end of June. so-
Right, I know, why is this taking so long? But folks could still use the kitchen minus that front door working, yes or no? Can't
No,
they?
not the front door, the interior handicap doors.
Okay.
And I was hoping that we could get an IGA, and then we could go ask the county for money, and
Right.
I guess we'll just go ask them for money anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, do it. They don't give that much out this way. They spend a lot in Durango.
well, I think we're in a better position for that kitchen to be usable now.
You know, that's just like a mess.
No, it's
No,
okay.
it makes
not.
complete
We're-
sense.
we're
We
following.
were with you the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an organized mess.
uh-huh.
We know when you actually put it on a piece of paper and type it up, it'll be
It
fine.
looks like this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for paving streets, can we, I mean, is there not a way to like pick a street a year and start working on a
Well,
street?
that's what the management
asphalt
plan.
management
Oh, that,
will tell
okay,
us.
sorry, I was
Yeah.
like, where are we
I
going?
think
Okay,
you wait for this, and you figure out basically where you need to start going.
okay,
That's why I was asking about how long time we have for the ones that are bad. How much time do we have for those?
okay.
All right, so, we're gonna explain a little bit about, this park plan that you all have. I found out that there was no 8.5 by 11, like, copy, so I thought I had to take a big one and print it down. It's not the best thing, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna start off with basically the area that's owned by the arena, the rodeo arena. And I think what we need to do is talk with the school district to see if they will contribute this property. If we move the arena to another place, will you contribute the property so that we have an in-kind donation for the park plan? Just wanna make sure this board is okay with that.
Yeah.
So we come ask them, we're probably gonna go to the school board versus to you. And if there's any opposition, it'd be good to
No.
know now.
No, I'm good with it.
And so we believe that this is a really good grant to do the whole thing. Now, you've been saving up your CTF funds, your conservation trust funds in a fund, and they remain there, so you have money that you're building up over time that you could use on this. But what we're looking at is applying in February. Was that our date? Applying in February, basically to do this whole plan. And as you're looking at it, I want to make sure that there's nothing that just jumps out and you say, absolutely not. It's not likely that they're going to pay for paving. And you're not going to get DOLA to pay for paving. But, you know, we're going to have to look for, maybe there's donors, maybe SWAG is interested in donating some money. Maybe there's, you know, your oil and gas organizations here that would like to donate. So we're probably gonna be looking for some big donations. You know, if Rotary gives $1,000, that, it looks like there's a lot of people, and Lions gives 500, and somebody else gives 200, and, you know, somebody else, a lot of these basically look really good when you have a lot of community input and support towards the development of this park. But it's not gonna be cheap,
Is this the way it looks?
and it's 70%.
So this is just blown up.
The town has to come up with.
So this is,
So the match
there's no
is
street, there's Parkway.
determined once you apply
This
and
is
they
this
see what
section
Where's
here.
Mill Street on here?
So this is right here.
There's no maximum amount.
It's
So
just,
you can ask for whatever you need.
$1.4 million.
This is down by the tree.
I'm like,
It's just blown up, yeah.
Okay, but it
Yeah,
goes-
this is just blown up right
Okay,
there.
So it's
what
this
we would
piece right
like
here?
to do is basically, and now keep in mind, you have a new Parks and Rec guy here. Ryan has just started. Been here for 10 days now.
Feels like 10.
And, you know, and I think between Nicole and Ryan, we really need to work on basically getting support to develop this park. Now, keep in mind, you have a lot of young families that are raising their kids here, and you have a really strong recreation program. So the goal is to keep that up and then keep growing in this. So, you know, we were granted the award in June of next year. So there's probably not a whole lot of things we'll be
we're
able
right
to do before
Okay.
I
the
get
end
this
of the
one, I
year,
just don't know where this applies.
But the thing is we could start working on this. Now, the goal is to get the consultant that did this original plan and help us with some dollar amounts to get there. But it doesn't do any good if you're opposed to this plan the way it is. And I know last time we had those big sheets, and I can, you can bring the big sheets out too.
This provides so much
Oh.
more parking, even so
This is
that
the,
next
where we
year when we
propose to
vote
move
to
it. There's the wastewater
prioritize,
treatment.
revitalize
That's
Mill
over by
Street,
where we took the
there's
tour of the
all this
wastewater
parking
treatment
available for
I didn't go to
people,
that.
for
Oh.
there to be things to do
plant. Okay,
in our downtown
Yes.
area.
so we're basically moving that.
Yeah, maybe this
Across
is
the
a
way.
different discussion, but has
Oh.
there been any talks about a swimming pool in Bayfield?
We just have to find a way to fund it.
Right. Because when I moved here in the 4th grade, I was actually on a swim team in Kansas, and I had to give up that career when I moved to Bayfield because I couldn't get rides to Durango to go be on their swim team. So anyway, just a thought.
It might be in the rec center design, I can't remember.
That's what I was thinking.
Included in the rec center part or not. Pools also just, it reminds me of our earlier discussion about, town hall and the senior center being built without thinking about long-term operational costs. Swimming pools are really expensive to
Yeah.
operate.
Gotcha.
So we'd just be making sure that we have the funds long-term to operate a pool. And
Maybe a few
there's
more.
one in Ignacio and Durango, but
Maybe a few more rooftops.
That's why if we can get the river access, kids can go
Yeah.
cool off.
Yeah, right.
Can't swim laps, but, you know.
Yeah, that's more
Or an
bigger.
outdoor pool that's only open during the summertime, I mean, that's another thing, but well, like Ryan said,
The
you have
maintenance.
to subsidize it. You will not, there's no pool that I remember in any of the colleagues I've had that you're able to fund it with the fees that people pay. People think they pay a lot, but it still doesn't fund the operation. And so most, I think Durango, a lot of the communities I'm aware of, have a sales tax or some type of tax that subsidizes the operation of the pool.
Well, at CML, didn't the governor say that they couldn't even find 1/3 of the
staff.
lifeguards that were needed?
They closed a lot of pools in areas because they don't have enough staff.
Even Ignacio just did that the other day. They are shutting down the pool for an entire day to get all of their lifeguards up to speed.
Certified, yeah, recertified.
Mhm.
So Katie, have we given you direction on this plan that you could work with the school board to see if we can get that rodeo moved?
So what I would like to do is go to the school board, it'd probably be Nicole, Ryan, and I. Leon would like us to speak with Mike Fouts first, and then go to the school board, and talk about, the next development. And so I think that as long as there's no opposition, and you're not making a decision here in the work session, as long as there's no opposition, we're just gonna proceed ahead, so that we have support from the board of trustees for this now. We're looking for your support, kind of a long-range project, and the property that you gift this development would be considered an in-kind portion of our match, or the school's match. But you're gonna have to find other interested organizations, so. I've been here 2.5 years, I'm starting to learn who the movers and shakers are here, but, you know, when you talk about, actually funding it, you know, $500 or $100 from just little pieces make it look like it's supported greatly in the community. And, Fast Track, has been a really good supporter of our parade. They may see this as a good, thing as well. There's a lot of, we have sponsors for the 4th of July as well, so those are another, you know, list of people we would go to. But you wanna make sure you have, all the community as a whole in support of this. And I know Ryan and Nicole would like, you know, for you to be out saying, by the way, we're looking for supporters. And, you know, I know that, in building a skate park, at one time, we had kids that raised about $5,000, and GoCo saw that $5,000 as more important than the Rotary's $10,000. So, you know, those are also things that are very beneficial.
So I'm just ignorant of this. Does the school district own the property under the rodeo grounds?
They own, they have a first right of refusal. Well, it's not quite that. So if the arena organization folds or moves, the property is deeded back to the school district.
Oh, that makes,
And Leon didn't even know this. I don't think Kevin did.
yeah, that would make sense, because the school used to own all that.
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, if the school says no, they don't want to gift it, is there some sort of long-term rental agreement that we can?
Well, that would be our next.
Okay.
next ask. And keep in mind, we probably have to go to the school board to
Just
get this
okay.
type of guarantee, so it may take a couple meetings.
Okay.
To let them know what's going on. If not, they own a arena that maybe they need to cut the weeds and take care of.
Yeah.
That they don't have access to,
Yeah.
because they're
Oh, is it
landlocked.
landlocked?
Yeah. We just cut them off.
Those are every time they bring
Extreme
out a
last
lawnmower,
resort.
it's gonna find them for coming across.
More than one way to twist an arm.
Well, I just thought it was funny to me because a FedEx driver was being trained on just below our skate park. So, anyway, it's open for all kinds of activities.
And so when you go to submit this grant, we're all in agreement that we want to move forward with the current plan. I mean, we don't want to, we want to see this through because you start making changes and then you got to have all that.
No.
It looks good to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
And there was
parking
a
up
lot
near
of
the river,
input put
you've
into
got,
It was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot put
Yeah.
into this plan, so.
One thing we'll do though, when we work with, getting a cost estimate is probably looking at phases. Because if we can't get a grant big enough to cover the whole thing, how do we wanna break it down and what are the most important phases to go first?
Okay.
And multiple year grants or something like that. So that will be something we look at, and the cost estimates will be broken down by those phases as well. So we don't have to go back and get another cost estimate if we do three phases.
And I found today in the conceptual design, they actually broke it out by phases.
That's what I thought I saw before.
Yeah, yeah, and I talked to them today, but the whole project in 2018, they estimated at $6.9 million.
So
And then-
double that. Just kidding.
Right.
seriously, right now,
Yeah, I'm sure it went up.
everything's
quite
so
a bit.
expensive.
But it's interesting because they broke it out into $382,000 phases, because at the time, the GoCo grants were, I think, like $250, and then the town was required to have at least 25%. So it ended up being 18 phases, and
Oh, wow.
when you read the first, like 2 or 3 phases, it's very underwhelming. You're like, oh, that's all we get for, the first.
The first phase.
It's nothing exciting like a playground or,
Parking
and the
spaces.
first phase was putting in irrigation in the soccer fields and the ball fields, which we've already done, so. But I'm meeting on Wednesday with our regional GoCo rep. She happens to be in town in Durango doing a grant workshop, so I'll be able to get more information
Cool.
from her Park Studio, who did the conceptual design, is willing to kind of rework the phases for us depending on, you know, how much we want to ask for and how much we can match. And, you know.
Yeah, GoCo's changed a lot since this plan, so they don't want to fund smaller things anymore, they want bigger projects.
Is this not big enough?
Well, I think breaking it into 18 phases.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
would be too
What it
small,
was.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They probably don't, you know, the administration and all that too. So they want bigger projects, like a whole project versus.
Gotcha.
And part of it's gonna be building a rodeo arena first.
Mm-hmm.
That
To move
is
it and-
only going to one select group of people. However, you know, this is a big ag community, there's a lot of horses and a lot of, you know, that, a lot of that type of, recreation, so.
Support for that too.
Now, I did, when we did the skate park in another community I worked in, we got Tony Hawk to write us a letter. And I think he even sent the kids money, you know, that time we got $5,000.
Nice.
So, you know, when you think about basically what we have here, we're building, you know, we're building a soccer future, we're building a baseball future, we're building some of these, you know, the one thing that I don't see in here is basically pickleball courts. And I think that really, what I would like to see is a place for pickleball courts in this, even if there's just a space in here.
Well, isn't the basketball court / pickleball court, it's supposed to be a combo.
It's just basketball / ball.
I think it got cut off. It's
Yeah,
pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right. Move
Okay,
forward.
so Ryan and Nicole, do you have any other questions for the board, just in case we're kind of at this preliminary stage?
I think the biggest thing is if we might have to spend a little money to get a new cost estimate. So we'll come back to you if that's the case, which I'm sure it will be, but
Yeah.
we don't know how much that would be yet, so.
Yep.
Start the grant process.
Okay.
All right. So I gave you another spreadsheet of all the capital improvements that we have. We're just gonna kind of go through this list, and I gave you a couple additional ones that keep coming up as well. I have, this is replacement of eight tasers and 2 new tasers for the marshal's office and 2 patrol cars. And from my understanding, Joe, there's $25,000 apiece for each patrol car grant possible.
Yeah, so the grant pays for each individual vehicle up to 25,000 is the most that you can get for each vehicle.
And do we know if we have a chance at that grant?
We received that grant.
So you've got that grant, so, and I put the full price in here, I never put the net. So you're looking at $70,000 versus $120,000. Little Pine restroom, heated and insulated, I'm kind of hearing that that's in here, and I just need to figure out where to put it. Little Pine security lights, we thought we were gonna do that this year, and I'm not too sure. There is electric service there, or maybe I was missing one.
Yeah, and I thought they were solar. When I talked to Mark,
Okay.
it was gonna be like the same light we put at the skate park. So, and he seemed like he thought we would be able to
Well,
do
we don't have
that.
any sun there.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
Well, that big tree is.
Gonna
either
go.
trimmed or removed, I know, so.
Yeah, so might make some more sunlight.
The north softball field, rewired the scoreboard, so I understand that when we did the scoreboard, it was not, the wires were not protected.
Well, I think it's been the same wiring all along. It was never put in conduit. It's just in the ground. And so I remember even when I was here before, a lot of years we would go to start up that scoreboard and it didn't work. And then John from A to Z has to come out, identify where the weak spot is, dig it up and fix it. So instead of doing that, you know, almost every year, we just dig it up, put it in conduit. And I did get an estimate on that from John of $2,800.
So do you think that could be just done this year before we get
The
into?
north and south field always
Yeah,
confusing.
I think
Kind of
so.
east and west.
That's my plan.
An angle room, this is for parks. Do you wanna?
What does that do? Sorry.
It's like a sweeper, a broom attachment for the tool cat that you put in front. So from my understanding, right now, the way that we're cleaning all the sidewalks and trails and parking lots is just by leaf blowing. And so this would be a tool cat attachment where, you know, it would just save a lot of time. We could just have a guy do that cleaning with that piece of equipment.
Profile dump trailers, just for trees and limbs, and it's pulled by a pickup, is that correct?
Yeah, and it can also be used to haul our tractor and brush hog, like out the roadside. Right now, we have to drive the tractor out on the highway. It's a little bit of a safety concern. But yeah, this would be a really versatile item for tree maintenance, gravel hauling, landscape install.
And then the next two we think we can do in this year's budget, so, with the money we currently have. So I'm just gonna skip to West Bayfield irrigation.
Yeah, I guess the distance from our pump to the, I guess it's like the right field side, or like it says, the west side of the south ball field.
That's so confusing.
Yeah. It's right field at the south ball field.
Okay.
But it's losing water pressure.
The West Field, so it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Mark wants to tie into, I guess, from Joe Stevenson, so we would have more pressure, because right now there's just some dead spots on that field that we're not able to hit very regularly.
And then Gosney Park additional irrigation, we don't have any amounts on these. And will you try to get us some irrigation estimates on those?
For God, is there not one? Okay, so both of those, he just off the top of his head said 3,000
For both or each?
each. And we kind of estimated a little high, just in case. But yeah, right now Gosney, I guess, has one set of sprinkler heads that
That's
doesn't
what they call
hit
that
much
section.
of the park.
So these are other things I think that if we could try to figure out how to do in 2022 would be helpful. Parks, benches, and picnic tables, this is just continue to replace park benches and picnic tables.
That's just to replace, that's not to add anymore?
No, I don't, it might be adding a few park benches, but picnic tables are definitely replacing.
They're shot?
Yeah, like over at roadside and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Those, we could use some new picnic tables over there, and 6,500 doesn't get you real far
Yeah.
with those items.
And then engineered wood fiber at Gosney Park.
Yeah, it's kind of, in talking with Mark, I don't know where the Gosney part came from, but he had said that we could actually use it over at the library, but it's also one of those things, it's just annual maintenance. We always have places where we can use the wood fiber. We could probably drop that from 6,000 to like 4,000, because it didn't seem like it was a high need item for this coming year.
And so just kind of FYI, some of these supplies, we're trying to get the auditor to stop putting some of these engineered wood chips and other things on the audit, because they're really supplies that don't have a very long life. So if you can get these in your supplies and part of your programs, I think that would be helpful. So I'd be more than happy to go over this with you.
Okay.
The youth sports jerseys, that's what you said.
I was like,
Yeah,
what's
youth
it,
sports.
youth sports?
Now, is this something that that we'll recycle and clean up?
Yeah, so it's what Durango does this program for their youth sports. So instead of every season, you get a T-shirt. So, you know, a lot of our kids are playing every youth sports season, so they're gonna walk away with 4 or 5, you know, different Bayfield Parks and Rec shirts, which are great for marketing, but Kathy and I looked today, and typically we're spending about $6,000 a year on buying these T-shirts.
That's crazy.
It's also you know, as far as setting up the program each time, getting everybody's sizes, handing out all the shirts, it's time constrained. But like the way Durango does it, they just have a reversible jersey that when you sign up, if you need a new jersey, you pay, I think, $5, and then that's yours to keep. And then whenever you upgrade it, you just turn it in and upgrade for a new one.
So you'll just have to do checkout, check-in.
Yeah, yeah.
What,
so-
I mean,
And will that save us money over time?
oh,
I think so.
big time,
I mean,
I
I
think.
need to look into it further, but I would be surprised if it doesn't save us money in the long run, you know, because a kid can wear the same jersey at least for one season, so that's, you know, as opposed to buying 5 different t-shirts
Yeah.
for each season. The upfront cost is gonna be a bit of a hit because it is a reversible jersey, is probably more expensive than a t-shirt, but yeah, it's just programming ease and yeah, I think it'll save money in the long run.
And then the Bobcat, snow blower attachment,
Yeah, I talked with Mark about this one, and he did mention something that Public Works was interested in using it as well. Is that right?
No, we just want to give you all the trails.
Oh, okay.
So,
You're like, if you want $5,000 out of my budget.
I was saying, are you
here-
giving
here,
him a little bit of
Give
your
a little
budget or
bit
what?
of this so that he can do that from your budget?
Yeah, I mean, because Mark said that currently we're able to handle all the snow removal. He felt pretty well with the RTVs and the plows, but you know, the snow blower attachment, I mean, if we can use it and it can be shared across departments, you know, then it might be worth doing.
You have an approximation on what that costs?
9,000.
and then the park landscaping materials, that probably needs to go back into supplies and programs. I'm just assuming that's just renewed every year.
Yeah, it's like fertilizer, weed spray, mulch.
Yeah, why,
Infield softball material looks like the same stuff.
those,
Yeah, the infield softball
They
material, I
did
need to
this.
do more digging into that because it was, I guess, intended for the north field, and I think Becky may have even been trying to spend that money this year. And I think they're trying to address the drainage issue. The north field does not drain near as well as the south field. And I don't know, I feel like drainage would have more to do with what's underneath the infield dirt than the actual infield dirt itself. So I just wanted to make sure before we move forward with that, that it would actually solve the problem.
And then the Mesa Park stormwater drainage improvement, well, you need some help, basically working, I'm just guessing an engineer first.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know much about that one.
let's put it on our,
It was under stormwater.
yeah,
Right.
we'll put it under there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then bear-proof trash cans at Town Park, from what I understand, we keep replacing these? Or,
I think we're adding them.
Yeah, that's what, I was told that we're just replacing all the old trash cans that aren't bear-proof as we go.
How many does that get you? $6,000.
I think it's 2.
Jeez.
It's not
Oh.
much.
I thought it was 2, but I'll check my notes.
2 trash cans for $6,000? Okay.
So, here at Town Hall, we have a bunch of dead trees, we have dead bushes. So last year, we did this, we just basically took out all these dead, bushes and put it in this red, these red chips that, Beth got on a discount from Home Depot. And so we would like to basically continue to start to keep replacing, some of the trees. And we actually have a dead one out here. It's we've got the strangest trees that, had fall right after June 26th.
Armageddon.
And actually, I do know that the issue that Mark is facing is that when they put in the irrigation line, basically what they did is they just poked a hole. They made a hole, so in other words, what's happening is that all these little holes are getting filled up and silted up. And so we don't know, usually there's like a little meter that would basically water a tree or water a bush. Well, the problem is that he can't find all these little holes in this irrigation line. So that's the way Mark explained it to me. So maybe it's just better to start replacing some of these dead trees with, a zero-scape type of
Yeah.
stuff. So. But we still have to pull them out. The smart hydrants, okay, we'll go to water, for Jeremy. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, well, they're smart hydrants. Basically, they're,
Versus the
fire
stupid
hydrants
ones.
that will give you pressure, water temperature on a regular basis. So this is one of the items that carried over from 2022. We're having a heck of a time even getting anybody to give us a price. So this is for 2 eye hydrants. We want to put them in the outer extremities of the distribution system. And this will basically give us real-time monitoring for pressure and temperature in the distribution system. So that one's a carryover. The meter replacement, we basically are changing out all of the water meters in town. So they're 10 years old and they're starting to fail. So what we've done is kind of taken town and divided it up into 5 sections. We're taking about 250 water meters. That'll get us through all 1,100 over 5 years. What happened is the new meters were installed in 1 year, and they're all failing at the same time.
Oh, that's lovely.
So what we want to do is space it out over a 5-year term. And
Right.
then we should get a 10-year life expectancy from it. We get through 5, we'll have a break in that meantime, and then go back and start cycling some of those meters out. That's that $75,000 line item.
And do we have meter relocation? I don't see that in here.
That was one of the,
Ones I missed?
I don't think.
The meter relocation isn't on here, but we still do have about 25 more meters to move out from underneath houses. We got 12 more done this year. So that's, we'd like to do $35,000.
Oh, you gotta add that.
Doesn't add. The old plant generator backup?
Well, I don't know, what is the correlator? Oh, for a lead correlation device, that's an add to,
Oh, gosh.
I don't know, it didn't make it onto the paper.
Yeah. How much does that add and what is it again?
35,000.
For meter?
15,000. So we're at another $50,000 in water.
What was that last thing?
What do you call it?
A lead correlator,
Oh, a leak.
basically a listening device you can program in.
And how much is it?
15.
15,000.
15.
And what it does is uses electronic signal to pinpoint leaks in the water. So
Oh, yeah, that sounds cool. We probably need one of those.
it'll get us within a foot, so we're not just trenching up and.
Right.
So old plant generator backup, that's a generator?
Yeah, well, basically, right now, there's a large diesel generator to run the large filter at the water treatment facility. When we had the fire in Ignacio, we realized that there is not backup power to the original water.
Oh, that's.
So, we're here or there, that's beside the fact. So we would like to add backup power for the original water plant where the SCADA is housed and also all the air for the automatic actuator valves for the whole plant.
And filter number 4 backup.
Oh, that's easy. That's just a large air compressor.
But there's no cost associated.
What is it, what does it cost?
$5,000.
How much?
$5,000. All the air currently right now for the new filter is supplied to the old water treatment facility. So when the power did go out, we noticed that some of the air actuator valves weren't able to operate with the fire for having the power out for that point in time. So we would like to have another air compressor in the new filter, the new part of the water treatment plant, to ensure that those automated valves operate correctly.
And that was filter number 4 backup.
Yeah, that's the air
Thank you.
compressor, 5,000.
Got it.
So the next one is spare parts and pumps. And you may remember, we asked for $11,000 because we didn't have it in the budget for a part that we needed for the water fund. So this is basically gives us some spare parts
Contingency.
for this purpose.
Gotcha.
And then they would like to have Arbor Day. They just want to spend $10,000 at Arbor Day at the reservoir, but I just want to make sure there's water to these trees.
Yeah, they'll be on a drip system until we can wean them. But we would like to plant trees along Lakeside Drive. If the sidewalk goes down headed towards the football field, we would like to plant, 10 or 12 trees.
Did you check with Jeff Dyer? Is he okay with? Sorry.
Yes.
I don't want to get,
He likes trees.
Because of the bears.
Sure.
So we're gonna stay away from trees, unless they're dirty. But, we would like to put some trees on that sidewalk. And I thought maybe Arbor Day might be a good opportunity. We've been doing
So
that.
just so you're aware, Ryan, you're in charge of Arbor Day.
It's gonna happen a lot. You got it.
Hey, but this is coming out of the water budget.
I camera analysis and repairs. We don't have a price in there. We're hoping to get that from SGM, is that correct? Just to
Yeah,
start.
we'll get pricing from SGM, and so we just completed all 23 miles of the video camera inspection for the sewer system. We'll be getting that information back, and we're hoping to use that with the NASCO reporting to pinpoint some sections where we think we have I&I inflow and infiltration. And then what we're hoping to do with this is put some mobile monitoring, some portable meters in there, and determine those wastewater flows versus getting GPRS back out for a camera inspection once irrigation goes on.
All right, flow meter.
That's another fund from 2022. We were gonna put a flow meter in to monitor the flows from Riverside RV Park over here, across from Roadside Park. And we're just unable to get the partial flume and the fiberglass for 28 weeks, so we won't be able to complete that project this year.
Sewer tap and rehab, 150,000.
That's also another lining project we're hoping to do in the downtown area. We have been collecting funds through the utility building for this, so we're hoping to get some rehab done and probably be in the downtown area. I'm just not sure how large the project is going to be.
Before or after we fix the sidewalks?
Well, it's non-invasive, so it can be before or after.
Okay. And then per lift station, so I'm sorry, this should be $50,000 or 6 per lift station for SCADA. Is that correct?
Yes. So that'll give us real-time monitoring and also information. We get a call-out. Currently, we're using a RACO call-out system. It's an automated voice dialer. It'll call you up and it'll speak to you. So we're hoping to put a little bit more automation in those and be able to gather some information if we do have an emergency or call-out.
And do these all have to be done in 2023, or can we do like
Phases?
2023, 2024, 2025?
We can split them up. That number's just a placeholder. We haven't got the actual full one. I'm pretty sure it's gonna come in a lot cheaper than that.
Okay, so I'm going to say two each over each of the next 3 years. A back truck, you're going to have to explain that to the board.
That Vector
like-
truck? Like a sucker truck? Yeah.
So it's a combo truck. It's hydrovac and jet rod. And right now, cleaning our sewer system, we're not really getting all the debris out. We're losing a lot of it. We don't have the ability to suck it up out of it, try to catch it with a bucket of holes. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have seen the Vector trucks in
Yeah.
Durango,
Oh, yeah, I've seen
the
them,
big
yeah.
white trucks with the cyclones on them, and they can basically put high pressure water, jet rodding, and they can suck out sewer lines and stuff like that.
They'll also help us maintain the storm.
Yeah.
Stormwater. But just jet rodding it and blowing the debris down the ditch is not gonna fix the problem.
He sold us on stormwater
Yep.
fix.
Yes, you need, how many do you need? Two?
So the next two are.
Good job
ARPA
hiring
money.
Jeremy.
So we we received $337,000 plus some extra dollars in there. And we have to use those before the end of 2024. I mean, you have to at least have a
Earmark or something?
earmarked for them. And this is what they've been earmarked from the day we knew we were going to
Okay.
get the money.
Okay.
So it's basically to replace the diffusers and nitrogen removal update. And so we do have engineers working on that.
Yeah, Chad Paulson, best engineer, is working on that right now.
And then you want a pickup or a utility truck?
Okay,
Did you just get a truck?
I was like, isn't there a hand-me-down
No,
somewhere?
didn't we have them last
You
year?
need another truck?
we need like 5.
Oh.
Me too.
We're starting to get a pretty good collection. This is what they call the impound yard. It's turning into a junkyard. So
You have an auction?
we have another dead one out there.
Oh, man.
Too, so. The guys have been driving around some early 90s vehicles for treatment, and it's time to start phasing some of these out. You know, that either way, it's a nice but not necessary, but we do have some antiquated machinery that we really need to start
The
replacing.
ones we want to replace, they've been oswald back together.
I mean, that's my point. Like, when we're spending money every other week trying to repair things, it's just,
And last week, me and Jeremy agreed with this, we're not spending any more.
you're,
money.
okay, that's,
So crack seal, this is a pretty typical amount that we've had from year to year. And tamarack rehabilitation, we don't really plan to do until we get the fiber.
Yeah,
in
and
the road.
I don't think that it's appropriate to really recondition any of these roads.
yeah, okay.
So this is just kind of, it's kind of a placeholder, I should say, tamarack. And then line striping, would this be the full town again, or?
Yeah, so this would be all the collector streets, center line, shoulder striping, and crosswalks, so.
Okay, and then explain the mini excavator.
It goes back to stormwater.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying, because
He was saying he's trying to get, they have a backhoe, they were trying to get a backhoe into these places that they can't get into.
Right, gotcha.
And it was a mess. They needed to dig
They
fast.
did, yeah.
Just like Sunrise is our detention pond, and we can't get in there with a backhoe. We really need to
Gotcha.
basically get in there with a mini excavator. So
at this
some of
point in time,
these,
we're renting that equipment.
you're renting. So the one thing
Oh,
about
yeah.
mini, you know, we actually have a stormwater utility. This would probably come out of the stormwater utility for those types of maintenance. Okay. Sunrise Detention Pond, this is also, that we found out this belongs to the town. And then Clover Meadows, number 3 detention pond, which is kind of at the west end of Meadow Circle, we found out is the town's detention pond. So if we have a stormwater utility, these will probably transfer to that responsibility for 2023.
And these monies are also to include some engineering, to figure out what we do need to, what type of activity needs to be done. If we can do it in-house, or if we have to contract it, to repair those facilities.
Okay, traffic control, this is signs, barriers, cones.
Cones, barrels.
Construction signs.
East intersection engineering, this is probably more in the Nicole side.
Yeah, this is, so right now we have the funds to get to 60% design, and then we're gonna be looking at some grant funding of this list that I provided you, to get to that 100%, and then also for construction. So we probably should have some funding set aside for some match, but hopefully we'll get some good grants as well. And then the other thing with construction is we're hoping that CDOT will also participate.
So this could be 100% funded or 50%, do you have any, just guess?
Me? Most of the grants I'm seeing are, I'd say
have $500,000 from the school district regarding the intermediate school, so.
We're
it's-
under 50 now, because we already
we
budgeted
used to be
100.
right?
Yeah.
We just used money. Monument, so we took down Harms, the sign and the pedestals that held up the Bayfield sign. We'd like to get, basically put a marker or something to, for Joe Stevenson. Harm is what his wife calls him, and then Ed Moreland, basically some type of statue or art display, basically recognizing their contributions to the town. So we have a little history on Joe. I have pictures of all three of them before either they were young or before they were deceased, so we'd like to do something and typically artwork or monuments are cheap because you need to make sure they can withstand vandalism and weather.
Yeah.
I did find some grant funding for art. The National Endowment for the Arts always has some free grant funding that I've applied and received when I was in Durango, so that might be something we can use.
We may have some grant funding towards that. Then the East Mill Street Gateway, we think the engineer just guesstimated at $50,000. We're estimating that the actual construction would be about, we're just guessing 170,000, it could be.
Yeah, we're putting 200,000 into it, because between the 100,000 that you approved at the last meeting and the $150,000 grant that we are applying for tomorrow, that'd be 250,000. So
And-
we probably won't use it all again.
And we did save money on the west side, so. Then the Central Mill Street sidewalks, this is probably something that I thought about, that eventually we need to do the Central Mill Street. It's quite a pricey item, and you've got a lot of awnings and
Right.
supports that are on our sidewalks. But I thought what would be kind of interesting is to try to do the north side of Mill Street between Pearl and Pine. It's where Blue Sky is and the Blue Building and the eye doctor are, and just see basically what that would cost. And thinking if we have a contract out for the east side of Mill Street, that we actually add this portion of sidewalk into the contract, not necessarily into the grant, but into the contract to see what it's gonna cost. Because it may be the easiest way to figure out what we're gonna run into.
That's a dangerous section too. I think we.
that's
It's super dangerous.
not compliant.
I don't know what it was, I don't know if it was like a driveway, it looks like.
No, the blue
like
building
no
used-
More than 4 feet.
The blue building used to be a car dealer, and they had driveway going in and out of there,
There you go.
and it was all cut out for that.
So we would like to get an estimate on that when we go out to contract for the east side. We'd also like to contract for that area and just kind of test and see what works. Because keep in mind, we've got a active, cafe, and we have an eye doctor, and we have basically business offices, and we've got an awning, so just kind of test out, see how it works out. So we'd have that engineered at the same time, so. And it's not 500,000, we don't think.
Okay.
But the rest of this, but all of the sidewalks in Mill Street, we think would be about 500,000. So it's kind of a placeholder for the future. $60,000 US 160 pedestrian crossing engineering, and we have a $30,000 grant. So we were been awarded that. And then the US 160 pedestrian crossing, we just guessed at 500,000. And there could be some infrastructure grants for that as well. So it could be 50%. Sidewalk connection on Clover to Orchard to Lupine. I think that if we do a contract for the sidewalks on the east side and the Pine to Pearl, that we also get sidewalk, so that they're mobilizing once in Bayfield and not a couple times. So just so you're aware of that when we get an engineer going that direction.
We also have an opportunity when Orchard's doing their sidewalks, and talk to their contractor
Yeah.
about just
Smart.
So I think there's two different opportunities.
Two things there, just so we don't miss them. And then wayfinding, I'll let you talk about that, Nicole.
So right now, we're looking at working with Pueblo Community College and getting some wayfinding signs. I'm pricing out 6 signs right now, different locations, and we could add like Senior Center and Eagle Park and Joe Stevenson Park and, Town Hall, and have different arrows, Pine River shares. So I think right now we're pricing that out, and we'll see which community partners besides the town facilities want to help with that, and then hopefully finding some grant funding to get 100%. I'd like to find 100% grant.
Is that to go off of 160?
So, no.
Or it
160
within town?
CDOT has their own types of wayfinding. This would be in town, so you
Okay.
might see something here at Bayfield Parkway Mill.
Okay.
We might see, and what we don't want to do is clutter, so we want to see if we can combine them with other poles. We're going to want to just add poles in the street. So we're working on that piece. But we've kind of located a couple different intersections that would make sense for those wayfindings. So when people do get off the highway, then they kind of have directions on where to find different places.
And will we match these with what?
I'd like to get 100% grant.
No, that's not what I meant. So when we did
You're correct.
the sign into Bayfield, we had a whole bunch of wayfinding signs. Will we match those to it? Okay, that'd be cool.
The same scheme.
Same scheme, yes.
So on this extra little page that I handed out, we have the senior center, I just want to let you know that tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Stone Security's gonna be here basically to get, some, quotes. They're gonna tour Public Works, the senior center, and town hall to basically do a card system for access, to, these facilities versus keys. So there's quite a few things. The Bayfield School District currently has this type of system, so we know it's gonna cost money, but it doesn't hurt to find out what it is gonna cost, so, especially for the senior center. The Bayfield Center stuff is the trail around center. That's a $1.1 million grant that we received from MOP and CDOT. And we still need to kind of
Katie, where is this again?
Yeah, there's an
There's
extra
an
little
extra piece.
page,
No, no, no,
sorry.
no, no, where,
Oh.
you s-
Basically, it's Wolverine,
Oh, it's late.
Sour, and this Bayfield Center.
That big trail that goes True Value.
Okay.
Wraps around.
Mhm.
like
Car wash.
car wash, yeah,
Momentum Fitness,
in front
Okay.
of the fire
library.
department.
The historic markers that are on Mill Street are pretty dilapidated. And, I know that Marion brought that up. It is something that I understand the Heritage Society did. But, I don't think that's a priority. I think that maybe we look for grants to do that. Typically, if you had a historical board, your historical board could get funds, but we don't have a historical board, so, I don't know.
I'll say that our town grant, we have a nonprofit partner.
The
that might be
society.
good.
The Heritage Society
So we can talk to Ann,
and,
find out who's in charge of that. So. The pedestrian walkway, so we just put electric power from down Dwayne Greer's driveway. He's gonna close that off, basically just for a driveway. It's a between property owners. San Juan Vans is now basically on South Street, and what they are gonna do is, they're gonna work this out, that they're gonna waive that access. So, I don't know if the board is interested in doing some improvements there, basically making it pedestrian access. He is gonna use it for a driveway, which he has every right to use it. And the more I think about the fact that it'd be nice if it was kind of a nice pedestrian access, because that's what he wants. But I think maybe that would probably be something we just push off for another year.
Are you talking the access? You said he's using it as a driveway, but from the back end, so it would basically.
Have a gate
have a gate or a post, couple posts or whatever it's.
But we've talked about, at least at this point, maybe he just keeps a gap in that
And
gate
he
enough
will,
for
yeah.
pedestrians.
Oh, okay.
So at least you have that right now.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna wanna update Google Maps so it doesn't say Southwest Street.
And then we just talked about the HVAC at the senior center and town hall, the sidewalk north side of Mill Street to Pearl, we just talked about that. Portable stage, I know that every time we gotta go get trailers out and stuff like that, Pagosa Springs has a portable stage. They said it's about $100,000, but, maybe this is a dream, capital improvement, not necessarily something we do, 2023, so.
How much do we pay to rent a stage? Because didn't we have to rent stages for the
I mean,
block
it's the
parties?
going rate for a stage is like 1,500 to 2,000 per event.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Pagosa Springs rents theirs out to supplement that cost.
Okay.
We have Joe Stevenson Park soccer field improvement, and I don't know if you have any amounts yet, Ryan.
I don't, it's on my radar to come up with a plan. I know that there were some issues when we installed the irrigation out there, that we didn't have water for a while, because, the ditch water wasn't accessible. And so it really put us behind. The weeds have really taken over the soccer field, so, it's been a couple of years now, I think, where we haven't been able to run programs or anything on that field, so I just wanted to make it a priority. And I don't know, we'll see with like the GoCo grant, maybe that is something we can tie into improving the field. But I did reach out to a couple, Lupin Landscaping and Grasshoppers to see if maybe they could come out and meet with me and Mark, and so we can come up with a plan, because it's just, we were hoping to use it this fall, and I don't think it's gonna happen.
So then, you also want a domestic water tap, and Dave explained where that's gonna go if you're aware of it.
Yeah, a little bit I know of it. I guess it's kind of that walkway that goes towards South Street at the end there, kind of near where our irrigation pump is, the pump house down there. There's I guess a place where Mark was saying we could tie into municipal water, but we would need water tap approved and a backflow preventer, and he seemed to think we could do it for 5,000 or less. And what that would do for us, the appealing thing was then we could water before the ditch is turned on, and potentially if we don't have ditch water for some reason, we could use municipal water. So right now we can't really water until the end of May, and by that point, baseball and soccer has been on the fields and the grass. We're just playing catch up the rest of the summer. So that, I don't know, if it is as inexpensive as it was explained to me, I feel like it would be well worth it. And then I don't know long-term, what the cost is. It would go in the Parks and Rec budget, we would be paying for that water and how much we would use, and so that
And
would all.
you'd be paying, the Parks and Rec department does pay for all the water and sewer, just like any other customer, so. So you'll get maybe, and I think the water tap itself is more than this.
665 or
$6,850.
6,500?
Because I will be paying that this week.
How much is it?
$6,850.
So maybe
Oh,
just so you're aware that
Okay.
this may cover
6,800.
backflow, it's not, maybe not the actual tap itself.
Okay.
And then VMS signs, VMS stands for variable message signs. We would like to put some variable message signs here on the west end of Mill Street, basically identifying, we're mosquito spraying, or there's gonna be a block party, or something there, basically so that it's visible.
Are these
And I
permanent?
don't have some amounts on that. You need electricity. If you have, because we're so close to that intersection, and it has internet capacity, we will be changing the sign while I'm sitting in my office. So I don't know about the east side, that's gonna be a little tougher, because all the trees in the way of, an aerial, internet connection.
So that's a permanent sign then?
It'd be
Cool.
just one of those message signs. Our code's restrictive on how often you can change that message, so we would want to meet our sign code, but.
Is that something that we could put at town hall, like near the bell, like at town hall? I mean,
Oh, well, you can put it anywhere at this intersection.
And then everyone just knows to look there when they go to
Yeah.
the ball games and, because don't we
You
have,
want it in a location where it's
It's-
not impeding any.
yeah. That's why I feel like it would be better on this side where there's, I don't know. I mean, we have to look at that.
Coming off a mill. We pulling up the, pulling Bayfield Park right in the mill, across the street.
Or, you know, either side.
We do not have portable VMS fencing. That's something that
Is-
you guys would be interested in. We've been borrowing them from the county, and if you noticed, last year for Fourth of July, they were unavailable. So with the wildfires, they were tied up. And so that's why we didn't have the VMS signs this year for the Fourth of July event.
What do those suckers cost?
So, just get us prices on.
Well, that's not
the
bad.
other-
They're about $7,500 a piece.
No.
That's not as bad as I thought it would be.
You can two of them for under 2,000. But that's just ballpark. I have to get the exact.
That doesn't seem unreasonable.
Hey, any capital improvements that we forgot? Now, we'll be going through this with department directors, so we're gonna go through this, and we're gonna start on board with strategic goals to get this all done. So the next page is basically just the FTEs that we're asking for. I did hear that maybe it's time to actually get full-time facility maintenance. The code enforcement officer, we're looking at part-time, and that's just to deal with, a lot of the, weeds and I think weeds and
Parking.
everything else that Nicole gets calls for, and I'm sure the marshal's office gets calls for as well. This is without, health benefits, but I'll probably be bringing a proposal with health benefits and without health benefits, but this is kind of what we're looking for all the labor costs. And then Parks is looking for another seasonal, second seasonal, and then Public Works is looking for a distribution and collection, full-time.
Full-time.
Can I,
And if we had stormwater management, would you be looking for another person? Because that's number one now.
How much stormwater? All of it? But,
yeah.
yeah, if we have. if we
It's
have
hard to say it
yeah, I
now.
mean,
We don't know.
That's the nature.
Okay, well, we got a lot of work to do. The town hall receptionist, we're looking at somebody just part-time to come in from about 9 o'clock or 8:30 to about 11:30, and just help with some of our, so that Jill can do some more of the scanning to get all of our land use stuff organized. We're making a lot of progress on the paper, but the problem is that, when you're at that front office, you're always going, 7 different directions at the same time. So it would just be kind of a part-time position for somebody to come in and help out as a receptionist for that morning.
Would your idea be to use that temp service? I mean, we've had pretty good luck with,
If you use a temp service, keep in mind the hourly.
It's expensive.
We pay
Yeah.
pretty high salary for that part-time. We'd really like somebody that just was here, that lived in Bayfield, that came in
Okay.
for, 3.5 hours a morning. Okay, I don't have anything else.
Kathy, you didn't need anything? You don't want anything? Oh.
Receptionist.
Oh, okay.
She's like, there was something on there for me.
Yeah, so is that it? Everybody's, no comments, questions, follow-up?
We don't have public input.
There's
Yeah.
there's no
Okay.
public to input.
Nope. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session. We're gonna give everybody a bathroom break, stretch break. That's a request from the board.
Yes, from whom?
Guess
Michael knows that we're going to contact him regarding.
he's on there. Money. Just need money.
Yeah,
All right.
lots of money.
Lots of money. I'm gonna win the lottery. And then I'm gonna donate pickleball courts, and it's gonna be. I get accosted at the gym all the time. It's funny how the old people are like, why can't we have pickleball courts?
Well, pickleball, you need like walls, right?
No.
Or no?
No, they throw it up right on the basketball court at the library. Yeah. And they do.
Isn't pickleball where you hit the ball up against like a wall and then?
No, that's racquetball. Pickleball is like a shortened tennis.
Oh.
The rackets
okay.
have like, they're like almost like ping pong rackets.
Oh, okay.
And the ball is deflated, like they poke a
Oh.
hole in a tennis ball so they can't like launch it. It's weird, but it's a cult thing.